Oh, wow. So we're gonna dive into this end of the relationship pool. This is gonna be really interesting. So, let's get going here. Girls, how is it like dating a nice guy? Story 1. I apparently was a good target for nice guys in high school. Made sense, though. I was really bad at speaking up. I could see the manipulation, but never did anything about it. I was too afraid of rejection. This, and my mom constantly pushing for a relationship despite me not being allowed to date, really made it confusing for me. Guy number 1. He was bullied in high school and eventually transferred to homeschooling. He joined the club I was in, and we talked on and off. I guess he liked me, and after a club meeting, I got a text saying that he liked me. I made up an excuse saying I wasn't allowed to date, but I appreciated the sentiment, etc. He agreed to be friends. Well, then he started getting into his past of bullying and his continual depression. Apparently, his ex's dad threatened him with a gun at some point. I would talk him through his episodes. He would constantly go back and forth between, "I have no friends, there's no point to me living, I'm going to commit self-unaliving," to, "You're my only friend, I don't know what I'd do without you." I eventually couldn't take it anymore and just dropped off the face of the earth. I hope he's still alive. Guy 2. Same club as before, but he was also in another club with me. We got along pretty well, and I found him funny at times, but I was a freshman and he was a senior. One day, my mom noticed that in every picture with me, he was in the background just staring. Creeped me out. He asked me out once, but I denied him. We dropped contact after he graduated. Guy number 3. Our parents were really good friends. We were in several clubs and activities together through high school and were pretty good friends. I had heard a couple of rumors about him liking other girls, but I ignored it. He started texting me every day at one point, but it eventually dropped off. Until, at prom one night, my friend jokingly pushed up into a slow dance together, and I just went along with it. I was awkward as anything. This seemed like interest in his mind. He was very persistent and pushy almost. I made up some excuse when he said he liked me. I eventually started to ignore his texts, and he got the hint after a while. So glad I did. He started to like my best friend after, and ended up low-key stalking her. He's engaged with another girl now, and they seem really happy. I'm glad for him. Guy number 4. Last one. This guy's actually pretty cool. We met on Discord through some friends of ours and really hit it off. I honestly considered him for a bit, but knew we would never have made it. We were too similar in some aspects and too different in others, but we made great friends. He was a bit clingy at times, but nothing too much. And I could back away and he would respect that. The thing is, he would only open up after a lot of pressure. I had gotten him to open up several times, and he expressed appreciation for it because I was the first person he ever opened up to. Well, I knew he wasn't telling me something, so I pressured him into saying what it was. Apparently, it was that he liked me. It was 3 a.m, so I don't remember exactly what I said, but something like, "You're an amazing guy and awesome friend, but I don't think we would work out. You're not really my type." He respected it, and he lost interest over time. I think my growing interest in my now husband and his friend helped with that. My husband and I are still great friends with him today. He's an honorary brother to my family, and my kids will call him uncle one day. Starting off the video with a bit of a smorgasbord. Thankfully, there's no real heavy, violent, or manipulative behavior here. You can kind of chalk this up to growing up in high school, not knowing how to behave socially. A lot of it is really creeper, kind of stalkery behavior. It seems like this person really has a good head on her shoulders to know who she is and how to handle these people. I'm even glad one of them turned out to be normal and remains a good friend. It's good that she was very self-assured of herself to be able to handle these people. Story 2. I was the nice guy in college, or I turned into one because I absolutely loved this girl to death. I put so much effort into keeping her, sometimes it makes me ashamed of myself. I would accompany her, on her request, on the ride home to her house, on the bus, and then travel 3 hours back to my place every single day for 3.5 years. She never dropped me off, not even once. I asked, She said no and claimed I was only asking her to make her feel guilty, blah blah, I'm an abuser, blah blah. I stopped dropping her home and she was so mad I started again. I would write poems for her on her birthday, get her friends together and cut a huge cake, even organize a day out with her closest friends, some of whom I hated and who she eventually left me for and promptly dumped me after a couple of months. And she would simply forget my birthday. 3 years in a row. I was in the college band, and she never bothered to come to a single one of my performances because music is a waste of time. We're both software engineers now. I'm higher up on the ladder, but she has a master's degree, so kinda even. I make more money, though. She had no hobbies as such, besides texting her guy friends and deciding which one to block and which one to flirt with. Drove me insane, but she claimed that she was just being funny, while it seemed her only brand of humor was flirting. Sounds like so many women I know. Please, develop a personality. Might help. You should have seen how she overreacted if a girl ever flirted with me, though. Happened a few times, and she absolutely yelled at them. For the record, I did not even look at another girl the entire time I was with her, and blocked every single advance towards me. At the end of 3 years, I was so drained emotionally and physically, I just couldn't keep up the effort. And she noticed it, threw tantrums, and left. Never stopped to reconsider reciprocating. Never stopped to think what I must have gone through. She did call a year after and cried and told me how sorry she was for mistreating me and that her new boyfriend apparently doesn't treat her the way I did. I think that does bring a smile on my face every time I think about it. I'm actually so afraid now of being taken for granted. I've rejected, sometimes with regret, so many amazing girls. I just hope I'll meet someone who will understand and appreciate effort. Some people, both men and women, only know how to take and not how to give. And that really scares people who have been raised the right way. It sounds like he had to go through a journey with this girl before he realized his own worth. Sometimes you have to go through some pretty bad stuff to find out who you are. It sucks that sometimes that's the only way you can find that out. It seems like he came out stronger, though. I think he's continuing to grow. I'm sure he'll find someone over time. Story 3. I'm not entirely sure if this is a nice guy story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Back in the 9th grade, I reconnected with this guy I used to date back in 7th grade, and I thought he matured, so when he asked me out, I said yes. In the beginning, he was super sweet. He was there when I needed him, he made me laugh whenever I was in a bad mood, and so on and so forth. But he was moving way too fast. He said I love you only after dating for 2 days. He started talking about marrying me and starting a family with me after he comes home from the military after dating for a few weeks. He convinced me to send him intimate photos, and he started talking about wanting to have spicy time with me even though we hadn't gone on a date yet. I wanted to break up with him for a while, but I couldn't bring myself to do it for 2 reasons. 1, I was terrified that he was going to spread the pictures I sent him, and 2, he was self-unaliving, and he said that I was the only reason why he hasn't unalived himself yet, and he insisted that if I ever did leave him, he would unalive himself. I was so terrified, and I felt so stressed, and I felt like I was trapped in that relationship. I didn't know what to do, and to add salt to an open wound, he was racist, homophobic, and sexist. I'm biracial and I'm bisexual. And he made offensive jokes about autistic people. My little brother is autistic. To add even more salt, he turned all of my friends against me by saying my family was racist towards white people. Both of my moms are white, because they said him and his family was white trash. I finally got the courage to break up with him after this, and since then I've never felt so free. Now this is the behavior I was thinking of when I was thinking of nice guys. Was this the type of behavior you were thinking of? This guy is a straight-up sociopath. Very selfish and manipulative. I hope there was no physical abuse here. I'm really glad this person got out. Story 4. I used to date a nice guy. We got along really well, had the same sense of humor, and always knew how to make each other smile. But then he started getting obsessive. He would demand to know where I was and who I was with a majority of my time. Kept asking about all my past relationships, but got jealous and upset when I told him about them. He would get jealous all the time when I hung out with anyone that wasn't him. All my time and energy had to be devoted to him. After 2 years, it got to a really bad point where he started to whine and get upset and physically restrain me every time I wanted to go somewhere else or take some time alone. I broke up with him. Even after, he would insist we weren't broken up and followed me around everywhere. We were still in high school. Finally, I really got the message through to him that I did not want him in my life, and he disappeared. A while later, we started talking again. We had hours and hours of talking and working out the problems we used to be too scared to address. It was really great to really hear his feelings on what had happened. He started changing for the better through a lot of talking, spilling, and conversation, and now we've been back together for a year so far. He encourages me to talk to friends if they make me happy, and has no problem when I need my personal space or alone time. People can change. It's just all about picking your battles. Story 5. Not a nice guy story, but a nice girl story. A while back, I met a girl who seemed nice and was very attractive as a bonus. Her and I hung out a lot and got along well. But then her friendship turned into obsession. She would subtly try to separate me from my friends so it'd only be me and her, calling me hers in a possessive way, and began to act super seductive around me. I have friends who act openly horny, but never to me specifically, only in general. It started to make me really uncomfortable, and when I tried to refuse her, she'd guilt me into staying. While we were never technically dating, she seemed to think we were. Eventually, after a few months of rejecting her, she began trying to spread rumors about me to my friends, to try and get them to leave me. I guess she thought if she couldn't have me, nobody could. Thankfully, these are good friends and know when someone is being manipulative, so they cut ties with her. And after a very angry and lengthy text message, I blocked her on every social media platform I had. Never heard from her again, nor did I care to find out what she did after. Story 6. I have 2. The first guy asked me out on a date, but never made any plans. Instead, he started texting me inappropriate things after we had barely known him for a month. Eventually, I told him to leave me alone, and he sent me a paragraph telling me how great of a guy he is and how he could treat me so nicely. I just stopped messaging back, and he left me alone. The second was from the ex of a friend that I gave my number because I wanted to be friends. He ended up wanting to date me, and I agreed. We never went on dates or anything. However, he also started texting me inappropriately and pressured me into doing things with him. Eventually, we fell out, and a few years later, we started talking again. I told him that I wouldn't date him. He kept pushing for us to date and told me that he was so deeply in love with me and that I was the only thing that made him happy. It eventually got to the point where I got tired of him and tried to just stop talking to him. We got into a fight, so I told him to grow up and that he should see a therapist. The second one sounds like one of those romantic comedies gone bad. In fact, a lot of romantic comedies have behavior that in real life would be considered super creepy. Just obsessively following someone around, constantly annoying them and trying to convince them they'd be great together. It's just not realistic. And somehow it just seems so romantic up there on the screen.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 7. I met an actual nice guy online in a group chat, and we talked for a bit. We had similar beliefs and backgrounds, so we instantly clicked. I explained to him my aversion to affection, and he never once forced me to be anyway, and was so understanding. We both ended up dating because of how close we got. I'll admit I did have feelings for him, but they weren't nearly as strong as they should have been in the romantic department. He made me feel safe and confident. We went on and off for quite a while, but still remained good friends before we both decided that there would be no hard feelings if we found someone else. He really did prove to be the mature one, since he knew I was still so engrossed with my career and generally not a romantic person. He was not only a nice guy, but a great man. I so badly wish I could have stayed in a relationship with him, but I'm both very asexual and very aromantic. I knew it wouldn't be fair for him, but no doubt he'll find someone. He's very kind, attentive, a diligent worker, and fun to talk to. I love that man. Story 8. I was a nice guy for some girls that I really liked. I always tried to speak intelligently, not hurt anyone's mind and soul, to act adequately, and always tried to work on myself to be a better person. At some point, I was obsessed with someone, yes, but I never made their life into a nightmare. If someone said no to me, I would just go away suffering and crying and never going back. I was always a caring one, ready to help, but never was over-texting someone. And guess what? I've never heard the words, "I love you." Not even once. It was always me confessing my feelings. Always rejected and never loved by someone. I was friend-zoned by girls I really, really like, and I've got some attention from girls that I didn't like and didn't care about them too much. Love is cruel stuff. It leaves people with broken hearts. All those fairy tales and movies about love, happiness, and good relationships for life are almost unrealistic hogwash. Story 9. I was a bit of a nice guy back in high school. There was a girl I liked, and I got her a birthday gift in hopes that she'd be my girlfriend. She ended up dating another guy who was infamous for being a bit of a player, and he dumped her. I remember being really upset, but I didn't lash out at her or anything like that. In my defense, I was like 14 or 15 and had the social know-how of a deflated air mattress. My mindset was, I got her a gift. She should be with me. Why doesn't she like me? I talked about it with my folks, and they basically told me that I was being a nice guy and that girls don't owe me anything because I got them a gift. I eventually grew out of that mindset and cringe whenever I look back on it. And for those wondering, I'm actually still friends with the girl, and we even see each other every now and then. Overall, it was a good lesson, and I'm glad I learned it. That is such a trap of a mindset to get into. Just because you buy something for a woman or do something for them doesn't mean they owe you anything in return. The only way that would happen is if you talked about it beforehand and both agreed to some sort of contract or verbal agreement in advance. And that's a whole other ballgame right there. Story 10. I am a nice guy with everyone. Being a nice guy with my girlfriend and now wife was always something that I wasn't sure if it was the right thing. But every time I was nice with someone or with her in a noticeable way, like helping someone that I just found in need to, she always points out that I'm a nice guy and she's proud of me. Her entire family was always nitpicking and rude with her. So me being a nice guy by nature was something that she felt really comfortable being close to. We never started a fight, nor call ourselves by bad names ever. She was the first person that made me feel good for being a nice guy. Hence, she's my wife now, and because of her, I'm happy and never felt lonely. Story 11. I don't necessarily consider myself to be a nice guy. I've always tried my best to be kind and understanding. I realized after my second relationship, I didn't know how to deal with a breakup at all, and to be honest, I still struggle a bit. I got really mean and wouldn't let people just live constantly texting or asking where or what they were doing. I finally sat down with an ex who told me how everything made her feel, and truly didn't know how bad it was until that conversation. I took a big step back to evaluate myself. Got therapy and figured out a lot of those problems stem from my mother leaving when I was young. To this day, I try to leave things on good terms and step away to not cause anyone any more pain. Story 12. I've never considered myself a nice guy. When I'm single, I'm insanely selfish with my time, and the best part is that my friends, whom I try to spend most of my free time with, understand that. Even in a relationship in the pre-dating phase, I've learned that one thing girls didn't like about me was how differently we'd process mishaps and misfortunes. I don't know how many times things got awkward because I didn't know what to say or feel about them ranting about how someone messed up their order, said something rude to them, almost hit them on the street, things I'd most likely shrug off and forget about in a few minutes. Story 13. I think the best dating advice I could ever give is that some people just aren't compatible as partners, and that's okay. It's just like how you can't be roommates with everyone because you live differently. Finding a partner isn't just about intimate or romantic attraction. It's also about finding someone who can make your life better by being there and whom you can help by being with them. It's about support and love and intimate compatibility, and people very rarely find all three on the first try. because all people are complicated and diverse in their needs and desires. Story 14. I was raised with my mom telling me that all you need to do is be a nice guy and you'll attract the girls you want. I've since grown and realized what actually causes female attraction. My mother then tried to share the same advice to a young woman. I told her that it's horrible advice and explained why it's horrible. She's the same woman who believes a man needs to act like Richard Gere in Pretty Woman to be the most attractive man. I've since told her that she shouldn't give anyone advice. Story 15. As a nice/good guy, I learned too late that being nice is not the only quality you need to have be likable. Sure, some girls value kindness more than others, but you can't just be nice all the time. It can be attractive, too. Sometimes she needs smart. Sometimes funny, confident, involved, or chill. You need to have a more balanced personality. As an introvert, it's very difficult to learn, because you need social interactions to build your personality. Story 16. Being a nice guy isn't bad. I'm a nice guy myself, but I don't obsess over things. I'm also introverted, but what I learned is that people often love to talk about themselves. The trick is to ask questions and let them do the talking, taking mental notes here and there while not revealing too much about yourself. Not knowing you is what makes you interesting, because they have to figure it out. Story 17. I used to be a nice guy once. Couldn't handle rejection, was desperate for love. I messed up a lot of relationships and potential friendships because of my actions and the words I said. Now that I'm older, I've grown out of that phase and have finally decided to stop pursuing love after I broke up with my ex-girlfriend a few weeks ago. I still have a long way to go, but I know that with enough time and patience, I'll become a better person. Story 18. I used to be a nice guy. I took a step back to see why I wasn't getting what I wanted. Found that I was the problem, looking at some of the things I did as if I was watching someone else do it, and it made me rethink how I should be with women. After a year and a half, I no longer have the same attitude towards women, and I have to say I'm much happier. Edit. I never did get to the level of some of these guys, and I'm happy I didn't. Story 19. There's a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy by a therapist. He helped most guys that felt they were really nice guys and had trouble with women. The truth he found out is that being nice was really just an insecurity, and some guys become not so nice when they're not treated the way they want to be. There's a lot of good insight and advice in that book for guys who feel they're too nice. Story 20. I never realized I was a nice guy until like my senior year, when I actually had the brain to reflect on my past relationships. I thought I had changed because I was now aware that I was like that, and I can stop myself from doing it again the next time I get in a relationship. But alas, I caught myself doing it again subconsciously. I stopped trying to get into a relationship now. Story 21. I was the nice guy, and I feel really bad about it. I'm still thinking about everything I did wrong almost a year after it happened, but finding the reasons why I said what I said has really helped me.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.